Hello, I'm Kochanski, Wilderness Living Skills and Survival Instructor. Today's mini topic here is going to be keeping track of your distance traveled. To most of us, we're familiar with the mile. The word mile comes from the word mila passus, 1,000 paces. Now a pace is 2 steps. So you got one pace, and then you take another and another. So from here to here we have 1,000 will give you a mile, which is 5,280 feet. The Roman legions, wherever they went, they kept track of their distance and they put up markers every 1,000 paces, which is a comfortable interval. Today we're talking about kilometers. Well, a kilometer, when 5,280 feet are a mile, you take, for a kilometer you need 625. We'll give you 1 kilometer. Now when you're traveling through the bush, you will find, and you're using a map and a compass and the technique of pacing, you will then be able to have a very good idea exactly where you are. When you're using a map that might be a bit old, you will run across a lot of cut lines and certain features with regard to roads and that sort of thing that may not be on the map. And this can lead to a great deal of confusion. The other thing is that if you choose, especially in the instance of the kilometer, you pace the kilometer, stop, and have a very distinct period of relaxation and rest. And you should keep track of that. It shouldn't be an hour or whatever. It should be something like maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Maybe 10 minutes is ideal. Walk a kilometer, rest for 10 minutes, walk a kilometer, and they roll on by. When you pace and you're trying to keep track of where you are on the map and you come to a feature, and usually very significant broad cut lines, for example, crossing each other might be a very distinct feature, but you ask yourself, is this on the map or isn't it? Pacing will have told you that sort of thing. So you will find that you will be able to know exactly where you are if you're careful about it, and you'll also find that constant stopping and taking a little bit of a break will make the distances roll on much more effortlessly. If you don't keep track, you'll hike and hike and hike and hike, and at the end of the day say to yourself, how far have I gone? And you have no idea. You might try to scale it off the map and you might not be right. But as tedious and as distracting as pacing may be, it's one way to travel very accurately. And probably at the end of the day, knowing exactly where you are, you will not have to build on accumulated confusion as the time goes on. Now generally we travel on cut lines and roads. This country is so surveyed so much for the petrochemical industry and so on that you don't really have to bushwhack through the forest directly. But there are times when you have to navigate through the forest, and maybe in connection with this we'll talk about that. If I'm going to go from A to B on the map, and I connect those 2 lines like that, that's my bearing. And let's say I'm going from the A to the B, so we're going that way. It is impossible for you to maintain that bearing. Now if you just walk like this around and try to get back on and end up here, you're going to find that you're not going to be able to control that. Now as you wander through our forests and you're looking in the direction you want to travel, you'll see an alley, as I would call it, that is close to where I want to go, sometimes exactly on my path. But I look for that closest alley or avenue, and maybe let's say here, I see it here and I go like this. And by the time I get to the last quarter, I start looking for an alley in the other direction. And whenever I cross this line here, I sort of say to myself mentally, this must be where my bearing is. And then when you have got to here, you go like this, and you end up being far more accurate because you can actually control your visualization a lot better by using these alleys. Travel like the distance to the alley, you're almost there, start looking for the one in this, and you try to balance your zigs and your zags so you get to your destination. I've used this in my life and career a great deal, and I figured that I was probably way more accurate in that notion of knowing where I was as I was traveling through the forest without benefit of trails or roads.